Before we get to your scheduled video, please remember that likes and comments tell YouTube to promote our work to other people, and subscribing to the channel tells you when something new drops. You can also head to the link tree in the description to peruse my books, join us on Discord, or support us on Patreon. You can get episodes of Journey of Wrestling and Violent Profiles early, as well as a load of other treats. Even just $1 a month earns you a name drop for being cool. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the show. Greetings and salutations, fellow people with families. It is I, Eric J. Chucci, joined as always by the boy.
Hey.
This is the Two Nerds Podcast, and before we get into talking about what a great movie Blue Beetle was, let's tell something that isn't a lie, and that is Passion Killer 711, Destrucity KTL, a guy from Ohio, and Rob are cool. You know why they're cool? Because they give me $1 or more. If you give me $1 or more over on our Patreon, not only will you get episodes of Journey of Wrestling a whole week early, but you'll become cool too, and we'll say your name. What if your name is Penis Fun Schnitzelburger? Hey, I guess I gotta say that.
If you pay us $15, you get to tell us what podcasts to do.
Yeah, we got some of that coming up, but that's not this.
This one was, we did this of our own volition.
Yeah.
We did this to ourselves. So I like Jaime Reyes. I like the character. He's been around since, what was it, 2007, 2008 we looked up?
Did we?
I thought we did, but I'm not sure. And I'm not like a huge scholar of his, of course. 2006 looks like. But I like the character. I like him in most things I see. And I like legacy heroes generally.
It's the age-old concept as well of all Spider-Men are good Spider-Men.
Yes, of course. It is also that all Spider-Men are good Spider-Men, even when they're Beetle Men. I wanted to like this movie. I'm gonna level with you, listener. I wanted to like this movie a lot. I feel like I've given short shrift to the DC movies sometimes. I haven't seen like a bunch of them at this point. And I'm aware that lots of the DC universe is getting rebooted now that James Gunn's here with his Scythe. And I believe he will do good things in the future, but I really wanted to like this movie because it was a character I like, from things I like, getting a movie, and I was happy. There's a problem with that. Why, you want to tell me what the problem is?
Movie's bad.
Movie is not good. Movie is bad. Movie is a bad movie. It is not a good movie.
And yet, ironically, it's one of the best-rated DC movies in a while. It made almost as much money as Black Adam, which had The Rock in it.
And you know what? If this is just that it's not for me, I don't get it, and other people do, and they love it, great. I'm happy. I want Jaime to be successful. If this bad movie makes a bunch of money, good. I want it to make money because I want more things with this character in it. But it's not, as far as my opinion on movies is concerned, this is a bad one. This was not. This was. Whoo boy.
And it's similar to if you've seen our Rise of Skywalker review and then trying to fix Rise of Skywalker podcast. Both are pretty good ones. I would suggest giving them a watch or a listen. I need to get our older podcasts on the actual podcast feed. We are on YouTube podcasts now, which you may be listening to this on. We also do some videos of like tier lists and stuff too if you want to check out the rest of the actual channel. But so y'all can listen to that in audio form only because that's how some people like things. But it had a lot of good. There were parts of this movie that I really enjoyed, but it also had a lot of dumb shit.
Yeah, it's like a lesser version of Rise of Skywalker. The highs weren't as high, the lows weren't as low, and it wasn't as frustratingly close to being brilliant. I think if you fixed everything there was to easily fix about Blue Beetle, you would have gotten to a pretty good movie.
And I think you could have fixed everything that needed to be fixed about Blue Beetle in the editing room. This movie was over 2 hours long.
Honestly, you cut out 10 minutes of this movie and you have a better movie.
I'd cut a half hour out.
Really, up to a half hour is all positives, it's all wins, but like there's like 10 crucial minutes that need to go.
I will say that all of the actors did great stuff with what they were given.
Yeah, no, it was not a problem with the actors.
No, the villains were really hammy for some reason, but
that's the material they were given.
Yeah, because there were scenes where Susan Sarandon, Victoria Cord, was talking to Ignacio Carapax. What a cool name. And she seemed very slick and manipulative and, like, together. And then at the end of the movie, she's, like, screaming, as you put it, Saturday morning cartoon villain lines. It, in hindsight, reminded me a lot of why I didn't like the Wonder Woman movie, the first one. I still haven't seen the second one. Because, like, these villains who should have been cool were just goofy dorks. And, like, I like a goofy dork, but that's not the rest of the movie.
Basically, yeah. Like, you know what? It's better if we go in order. That is the spoiler-free version of the review.
Yeah, don't watch it, is what I would suggest. Don't waste your time.
I want this movie to do well. If you think that you're willing to sacrifice for Jaime Reyes, do as I did. Go see this movie. But know that you're only doing it so they make more of this content.
Now, Jaime, as I understand it, is safe. I believe Jaime and his actor are moving on into the new DC universe, or at least that's the plan.
And I hope that's true, because this actor did an okay job. Not like a great job, but an okay job.
I mean, it's Jaime. You know what?
He did better than Finn, whatever his name is, as Iron Fist, which is my low bar for superhero main actor.
Yeah, he did not do great.
Jaime is perfectly serviceable. He's about one James Marston. If that's the default unit for perfectly serviceable in the role.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying, and I can't argue with it. But non-spoiler version, what you walk through this, and I'll chip in because I feel like I've talked about this movie 1,000 times now.
So, this is an origin story. Perfectly reasonable thing for them to do, given that this is not a terribly well-known character outside of, like, I wouldn't say comic circles, because he's in most if you don't really see Ted Kord in anything. If you see the Blue Beetle in anything, it's Jaime, and has been for a while.
I want to say he was in an episode or more of the Flash series, which is very popular.
He was in the Flash. He's been in Batman: The Brave and the Bold.
He was in Injustice 2.
Yeah, he's pretty. He's mainstream as far as comic book characters go, but a lot of these movies have to pull a non-comic books audience. So this is a weird guy. Tell us how he showed up.
Well, and okay, you immediately drop upon something that annoys me about this film. I don't care for origin stories, but, like, that's just because I already know most of them, and most of them are built out of the same trope building blocks. So I feel like we as a culture can move past certain belaborings, but I recognize that's a me problem, and a lot of people really benefit from seeing them. So, I try to keep my mouth shut or temper my expectations. Blue Beetle has a really fast origin story.
That's the thing, the Blue Beetle's origin story is... Genuinely, you could have done it in 10 minutes.
Yeah. And it takes them at least half an hour.
To a certain extent, it takes them the whole movie.
Well, sure.
And it was so unnecessary. Blue Beetle's origin story, Jaime's origin story is very simple. The interesting part of his character comes in the conflict and growth between him and Kajida. And they spent about... Of the 2 hours of the 120 minutes they had, they spent about 118 on his origin story and 2 minutes on the interesting part of the character.
Yeah, that was resolved really quick.
Which is, that's one of my biggest gripes. That's right at the end of the movie. They go through, they do the origin story. It's not exactly the same as the comic, but it's perfectly adaptationally valid. I'll put it like that. He ends up accidentally... touching the Scarab because the worst character in the movie, his kid sister, is awful and causes that problem. And then he ends up spending 2 hours basically getting used to his powers and becoming the Big Bag Beetle Borg.
That's not a slam on the suit. It was a practical effect most of the time, and I thought it looked pretty good.
No, that's just he's a Beetle man.
Yeah.
No. The suit was actually fire. Like that was, like that looked good. That looked cool. It didn't look hokey. It didn't look plasticky. The CG parts of it were really cool. There's no shade there. No shame. That was good. Then the movie starts with him coming home from college, which is, I think that's an adaptation thing. I think they aged him up a bit, which I am totally for.
Yeah.
And, his family's having financial troubles, and he's having personal troubles, and a bunch of stuff that is just not super necessary for the movie. I understand why they put it in. They wanted to give a emotional sort of anchor to the beginning of the movie, so you have a reason to give a shit about this person. But I give a shit about him because he's the protagonist of the movie, and he hasn't done anything to lose my buy-in.
Well, and also, they put a lot of work in to make the family heavily supporting characters instead of this being like a Spider-Man, ironically, where Aunt May kind of slides into the background a bit.
And that makes sense because Jaime's family and his relationship with them as a superhero who does not keep his identity secret from his family, they are characters in the books. They are, supporting cast. He has talks with them. They have their own troubles that can't really be solved by punching. So it's part of the story, but they really make it into a super team,
which is weird.
Which is a weird call. Not a bad call, really. Just a weird call.
It didn't upset me. It just, I don't know. It felt... we've said this before, and I don't hate adaptations. I don't. Obviously, I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and they're very different.
They're very different from all the Guardians
exception of Rocket Raccoon from the Guardians books. But even Rocket.
Even he's got a different accent.
Well, and he's got some different backstory and stuff too. So it's all adaptational. I just don't understand why, especially when you have a super family movie franchise in Captain Marvel, Shazam. I got used to it, and I was saying it all the time, and now it's gone back.
It's not his name.
It reset.
It's not his name.
I'm not mad about it. It's just that
I think in the most recent they're doing it again.
The captain.
He's the captain.
Yes, which is not bad.
Which is not as bad. At least it's not Shazam. I will try my best to go with the captain, although that's incredibly vague.
It makes him sound like a 40-year-old man with a boat.
It does. What a pull.
But you've already got that. You've got a family. I mean, hell, you have the Bat family. Like, you've got so many DC family of heroes, you could pull from. Why is also Blue Beetle that now? He was already your Spider-Man.
I think it's because they want to... It's a family picture, and they want to take that incredibly literally.
Yeah, I guess.
Also, you don't pay for George Lopez and have him not be in most of the movie.
I guess. I was torn because I liked his character, but sometimes he was the most annoying character.
Well, because he was supposed to be.
Sure.
But he was having an incredibly fun time, obviously, and he was their big comedic relief.
Sure. Yeah.
So of course he's gonna, because Jaime's romantic interest in the movie is a little bland. So George Lopez is there along with the rest of the Reyes family to give the movie levity, which they do a lot of.
And that's one of the complaints I had chiefly, is that you get some pretty bad tonal whiplash. The scene where he gets the Beetle and it attaches to him is filmed like nearly like a horror scene.
Which it should be. I mean, that makes sense.
But then, I don't know, not 5 minutes later, they're all laughing at his penis.
And
singing a song about it.
They sing a song about his penis, or, I mean, it's not, but it might as well be. And, what they're actually doing is mocking him for having a romantic interest in a rich lady when they are poor, and thus that is deserving of mockery. How dare he reach above his station?
I don't know if they were mocking him necessarily as just like is celebrating in the fact that it's like a popular TV show they know.
Just like in my stories.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, to me, it clearly came across as intended to be mockery.
I mean, it's, you know, that family kind of mockery that, you know, it's, I don't mean you any actual brain problems by
I'm
this.
not a bully, but
Yeah.
I am gonna razz you. And
But more
like,
so
he's got a horrible like alien suit now, and he flew out of your house and was gone for a long time, and then came back nude. And you guys reacted. You're really taking this super well. You're really taking this super well.
Like, no one was really horrified. They were like, oh, I guess he's a bug hero now. Bye.
And I mean, maybe that's, you know, in the universe, being a superhero is just kind of a thing that can happen.
Yeah, it just felt tonally weird. And this happened a couple of other times throughout the film. Should we build up to the Black Panther scene?
No, go right ahead, friend.
I think one of the best characters in the film was Alberto Reyes, Jaime's father. He was really cool. He was a cool character. He had his pride, and, you know, he was a hard worker, and a lot of just really good dad tropes.
He is one of the best parts of the little bit at the beginning before Jaime gets the Beetle, because there's a lovely little scene where it's been made clear that his family's in financial trouble. He does not have money to spare, but they're at a restaurant and he tips well, because even if he doesn't have money, he's not going to stiff a fucking service worker. That is proletariat solidarity, and it had my buy-in.
Yeah, it really made me like the character. And it didn't need that much help because he was already, you know, reminded me of my own dad in a lot of ways, and that's a pretty quick way to win my heart. But cats are doing stuff in the background. It is what it is. He, in a very emotional moment, dies of a heart attack. And they did that pretty well, but then again, it was almost immediately, not quite goofy time, but moving on.
The Reyes family reacts to horrible things happening like war refugees.
Yeah. And,
like,
you know, poverty will do that to you.
Best friend got blown up. All right, well, moving right along.
I mean, and there's a point where Nana gives a really nice speech, and that elevates them along, but it's still, there was some stuff in between that, and it was just very kind of weird. And that was bad enough. But then Blue Beetle is upside down in the villain's lair being milked, as is the trend for the year.
Yeah, that's, you know what? It's weird that it happened twice. 2 nickels, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And, like, he's fading in and out of consciousness, and he goes to Bast's Panther realm of candles, where his dad is, and he has a big emotional speech with his dad that mostly makes sense, but his dad seems to be freaking out. Then Dad goes off to heaven, and Jaime floats off into space toward a giant static effigy of the Blue Beetle. And, like, since you're usually seeing the real costume, it's not quite T-posing, but it's got that energy.
It's gonna look like it's T-posing.
That's just kind of floating there in space, and he's, like, swimming toward it.
And then they reach out to each other like David and God in the one painting that everyone's seen.
I have a joke, but I don't have a good celebrity loaded, so. And then that doesn't actually mean anything. He just sort of wakes up and is able to get out because of other things that happened.
Yeah, other things, other unrelated things. His family and his romantic interest, you know, disable the thing holding him still so that he can get out normally. The big Bass Panther Realm scene, which I believe the big field of candles, I'm not super familiar with, like, Mexican Catholicism.
It's a Dia de los Muertos kind of thing. The candles guide us, you know, the spirits of the departed back to the realm of the living so that they can have their favorite snacks and touch their favorite things. Like, I get it symbolically, I just don't understand it from a filmmaking standpoint.
Why is this scene here?
Why? Yeah. And I mean, I guess because you wanted the actor to do a really good speech.
And he did a good speech.
Not all of it made sense, but it was a good speech. And that's a lot of good speeches. Half of them, you don't want them to make sense. It's the old Izzard joke, right? Where you can sing the national anthem without whatever words so long as you have verve.
You can look, sometimes a sermon can be about banana bread and it just works.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't... The tone, the vibe is more important than the actual words. And he does a good speech. it is a little gibberish, but he's got what he's got to work with, and he pulls it off well. But why is this scene here? Why is it here?
For so many reasons, because Alberto Reyes doesn't die in the comics, as far as I can tell.
No, he doesn't. Not as far as I remember.
And I did a quick Google. I didn't dive deep into the annals of comic book history, but I couldn't find anything about
comic books. He might have died and come back 9 times. We
Sure,
don't know.
who knows? But like that's the level of like, why did you have Batman right over there? So many of the Bat kids are orphans. Why are we doing this to Blue Beetle?
Why is his dad gotta be dead, man?
And then why's he gotta see his dad's ghost in a special ghost realm that he's hallucinating?
You could have just had the dad make that speech.
Yeah.
Like when they go and they free him, the dad could have been part of that. You could have given him a weirdly cartoony but very lethal weapon like you gave the other members of the family, and he could have been part of that whole sequence. And then he could have given the speech to Jaime when he was stuck in the thing, and then Jaime uses that strength to bust out. That way you're selling both the dad and the hero of the story, as opposed to him just kind of being rescued like a damsel, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Well, and like an idiot as well, because there was that whole subplot about that guy whose name wasn't whatever Susan Sarandon kept calling him. I don't see him on the cast breakdown on Wikipedia, so I guess that is what it is. Sanchez, here he is, Dr. Jose Francisco Morales Riviera de la Cruz. There's this whole thing, and you can see it coming from
19 miles away. There's this one side character, is a doctor, that the Susan Sarandon's, evil white lady, that is her whole character. And all that entails, her whole entire character arc is evil, white, and lady in 3 blocks. And
I think businesswoman is applicable.
That's, fair evil white business lady. We'll add an extra word in there. Just keeps getting his name wrong, and he's trying to correct her, and she clearly isn't listening because he is beneath her. He is a minion, and thus not worthy of her attention. And then, you see coming a mile away that he's going to snap and turn on her in an important moment as, character building and, the villain gets comeuppance for their arrogance sort of thing. Only, he does it too late for it to matter, and then he gets nothing happen. It doesn't buy the heroes any time or do anything positive.
Well, it doesn't buy the hero any time because Jaime Reyes will not leave a room if it's on fire.
Literally, yes. But it doesn't. It's a pointless sacrifice when he makes it. You could have also had him do that, him release Jaime, and there's so many better ways you could have done Jaime getting out of the trap they put him in.
The milking machine.
The milking machine, yes.
They were milking data from him, but
they were milking him.
Yeah, they were milking him.
There's so many ways you could have had him get out of that aren't Jaime being entirely passive and the villain's actions not having anything to do with it. The villain didn't do anything wrong, and Jaime didn't do anything right. Another third party got him out of that jam, unrelatedly, and that's just not good storytelling in a superhero movie. It's just.
I don't know that the word superhero needs to be there.
There are some movies where that's okay.
I suppose if that's the ironic point you're trying to make.
There are some movies where, if it was, I guess in a Guardians movie, that's fine.
Well, I think if it was played comedically, it might have been fine, but it wasn't.
If he was about to do his big hero moment and then just goes, Choo! And he's just out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it's a joke. Then it exists for a reason. You are intentionally subverting it. But this movie is a chorus line of tiny little things that I could nitpick about for hours because they're just such own goals. They are just such unforced errors.
Well, we've got 7 more minutes, my guy. Is there anything else you really want to dive into? I got one thing, but
you do yours, and then I'll pick one because I got a bunch of them.
The secondary villain, the dragon of the film, I mentioned him before, Ignacio Carapax. Again, great name. He's the evil beetle called OMAC, which stands for Big Robot Fighting Suit. And he does this thing when he first fights Jaime where he's like, your family, your love for your family is what makes you weak.
Oh God, this fucking thing! I swear to God. Go ahead.
So later on, in that scene where Jaime is getting milked, the milk is going into his suit to make it beetlier. That doesn't make any sense, but I'm willing to let that slide. It is a superhero movie.
Yeah, whatever. Sure,
but it does, in fact, not make any sense. The guy's wearing like a vest and some shoulder pads and a helmet and some boots, and then suddenly he's full on Robotech. I don't know where did that come from?
Part of the Beetle suit is the ability to nanofabricate matter.
I guess, but I don't think that you can just plug in like a this is how you nanofabricate matter zip drive into a Nintendo Switch, and now you've got an Xbox One X. ZX.
I think what they were trying, and to be clear, they didn't successfully get this across. What they were trying to get across is that the after all of their research and many years studying, Ted Kord's tech, which was derived from the Scarab, and that sort of thing, they were close.
So, like, he was just walking around with, like, a bunch of, like, 3D printer material on his back, just waiting for the technology to work so that it could
They were... Well, because he partially transforms at the beginning of the movie when they fight, and he's, not all the way there. They get across that they almost had it figured out, but not quite. Yeah. And the Scarab data is supposed to get them over that last hump.
Yeah, so they plug it into him.
They do not get that across. I am making hay for the movie.
He's sitting there looking at a locket with a woman's face. And
which I think he's looked at like maybe once earlier in the movie.
Maybe. I don't remember it, but it's entirely possible. Susan Sarandon takes it from him and she's like, I'll hang on to this for you. Which might have been sinister or it might have been matter of fact because we don't want it on his person for some reason. I really don't know. They do a big fight, and because of their connection, Kajida, the suit, is like, oh, hey, I have his memories. And shows Blue Beetle that he was a child soldier who was being manipulated by
the evil lady, by the evil white business lady.
Yeah, for all his life, and his only true desire in his heart was his family, his mom, that he lost on that tragic day. And then he's like, you're right, I also remember now for some reason, and Susan Sarandon is evil. And I will vanquish her. I have a lot of questions about that.
What's your first question?
Okay. One, if in this first scene when he encounters Jaime and he's like, your family makes you weak, why would you say that when your favorite thing to look at is the locket of your family?
It is implied that he doesn't remember them very well.
Okay. If that is the case, why are you looking at this locket of this woman you don't know?
That is a good question. The movie doesn't tell us.
Also, if you remembered this the whole time, why were you still going along with it?
It is implied that he is reluctant to continue to go along with it and does not like Susan Sarandon's character very much.
Yeah, but he was reluctant about going along with it, about the same level of me being reluctant to go to the grocery store when I don't want to.
Yeah.
It wasn't a huge deal for him.
He doesn't like her very much. He doesn't hate her for destroying his life as he does after he gets his memories back again, I think.
This whole film reminded me of something from the late 90s, early 2000s in terms of like tone and quality and writing. And, back before the MCU really solidified itself, these were the kinds of superhero movies I expected to see. I.e., not very good. And it's weird to see one with this budget. And there was a point in the film where George Lopez is driving a giant beetle monster machine, robot, car, to kickstart my heart, which I complain because that should have been Gasolina. Although it's still a good song. And just mowing through bad guys. And I am having a small... Is it just me? Am I biased? Like, Ninja Turtles was stupid in a fun way, but I felt like that was so much better. Am I just not as huge a Blue Beetle fan? Is that the breakaway here?
But as the Blue Beetle fan of us, no. No, that's not it. This movie wasn't good.
Well, I think that was before the big, we're Black Panther now for some reason scene.
After.
Was it after?
No. You're right. It was before. I forget how late in the movie the Black Panther scene happens.
There's so much of that movie that it's not even a fever dream. It's not even that surreal. It's just, why? Why?
I have a different nitpick about the "your love for your family makes you weak" thing. That's a direct quote. That's my nitpick. Is that it's a direct quote. Nobody talks like that.
Well, and it's also, that was another thing I forgot. It's a pretty big leap of logic. He looks over at the van, and these are people coming to save him, I think. That is enough of a leap.
It's night. It's a truck.
You're on a busy street.
These could be people coming to save him, and there's no way you know who they are.
I mean, to his credit, got it in one.
Yeah, I mean, he made a real good call.
Yeah.
Because, the people writing the script made it for him. But, one, how do you know that's his family? Two, how do you know it's his love for his family that is the problem here? It could just be, what the fuck, a truck is over there. Oh God, that's my family. And then he was distracted for a minute. He might have gone right back into kicking your ass in 2 seconds. You don't know. He was just distracted. Three, nobody fucking talks like that. It's okay when an alien talks like that. When, Ronan the Accuser says some shit like that. You can have Zod say some shit like that. This is just a guy. This is a guy who works for a major multinational corporation. Human people in modern society do not look someone in the fucking eyes and go, "Your love for your family makes you weak," unironically. That's not a thing people say. Listen, George, people don't talk like this. And then he says it again, and then, later in the movie, Jaime throws it back in his face and says, "My love for my family is my strength." And, that's not what you say, "Fuck you." And I get it's a kid's movie. You can't say that, but
Oh, you can if it's in Spanish. Look, we've shit on this movie a lot, and we just said at the beginning, there's a lot that I really enjoyed. The acting is spectacular, especially the acting in Spanish. I am not fully fluent, but I understand enough to get by. And man, the soul they poured into things, the word choice that the subtitles did not do justice. And in one scene in particular, and I know there's rules and regulations around this, it just makes it a bizarre choice on so many levels. Blue Beetle's going back in to save somebody, I think his sister. And his mom, who is not quite demure, but she's reserved, she's the more sensible of them all, she's cautious, puts her hands on his shoulders and says, at least what the subtitles say is, "Go kick their asses." What she actually says is either "go get" or "go kill those motherfuckers."
And you're not allowed to say "motherfuckers" in the kids' movie. But
I'm pretty sure it was PG-13.
It's
you get one of those.
Yeah, they don't like to use it all the time.
Yeah, but
here's
why, the thing, you did use it.
Why neuter that line?
Yeah, because everyone in this movie is swearing constantly. Shit, dick, pendejo, whatever.
But just not the fuck word. That one's very special.
Yeah, we gotta keep that one.
The your family makes you weak thing, you can do that by implication. You don't need to have someone... It's like they looked at this camera and went, "I'm the villain. I'm the villain of this movie." It's so on the nose. I think right after walking out of this theater, I basically said, that movie broke my nose. Because every single point was on the nose. Was just the most blunt, unsubtle version of that point.
Yeah, it's so hammy and so tropey. And we've said before, you don't have to subvert expectations to make something good. You can be tropey and have something be good. You can have something be predictable and have it be good. They just didn't.
Yeah, being tropey does not automatically confer goodness. Now,
no.
I have spent basically this whole movie this whole podcast shitting on this movie. And I want to say some positive stuff, like you did for the Spanish acting. This movie's very fun. It is very funny. Mm-hmm. George Lucas is very good. The acting is pretty solid all throughout, except for Susan Sarandon.
You get Susan Sarandon trying, and then Susan Sarandon not trying anymore.
Yeah, Susan Sarandon having read the script and going, you know what, fuck it.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of fun watching this movie. I am aware it was not good, and I am frustrated because I wanted it to be good, and I don't really like it that much. But while watching it in the theater, I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It is just any level of post-movie analyzing just completely... the House of Cards all fell apart.
No, you would have to be on some pretty heavy copium to still be sitting around.
It's just a little terrible. It's still good. It's still good.
I mean, it paid a lot of respect to who Blue Beetle is.
Yeah,
the Beatles that came before.
Yeah, it had stuff about Dan Garrett and Ted Cord, and it had the lore of Blue Beetle. It didn't change basically any of that. We didn't get much on the reach, but give it time.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's just the people who liked the people who made this movie like Blue Beetle. I won't say love Blue Beetle because I feel like if you love Blue Beetle, this isn't the movie you make for him. They like Blue Beetle, and that shows.